Sure. Well, hey, welcome everyone to another episode of 1Upsmanship. I am your host, Adam Ganser.
I'm your other coffee-drinking host, Michael Swaim.
And I'm the third amigo, Soren Bowie.
With a tall glass of water.
That's his official title now, the amigo. We have an amigo here.
Okay. Little racist, but all right.
Sure.
I'm the third amigo. The other two are missing. No one knows quite where they are, but
Yeah.
I am the third amigo.
Yeah.
And I've
Oh, yeah, because
podcast.
Adam and I are not amigos.
No,
Yeah.
we've not been amigos
We're
for some time.
frijoles.
Yes.
Well, uh-oh.
Yeah, this is going to be great. This is going really good.
Dos cojones.
I'm really excited about this. So I'm just fascinated, and I guess I don't want to ask this question. No, I'll wait. But tell me a little bit about this game that we're going to cover today. Soren.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is a game called Spider-Man.
It's the Spider-Man. And
It's the Spider-Man.
So, like-
Spider-Man.
we tried to make plans to see a movie recently, and that
You and I.
proved difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine. Did you complete Spider-Man?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's
No.
like story mode of Spider-Man. I can't imagine how hard it is for you to play a video game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you
How
doing
is
it?
that? Why this one?
Well, so let me give you some background.
Great.
I got a PS4 from my wife for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why
I
did
was
she
like,
do that?
Well, she didn't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
the poor soul doesn't understand.
Wow.
Like, how
That's already
invested people get
amazing
into
to
it.
me.
What do
But,
boys like?
She got Red Dead with it, and I played that for a very long time, and basically shut other things out of my life during that time. Like
As you would have to.
I would wait until my child went to bed, and then I would play this. And so she couldn't watch TV or anything. And that what I would ordinarily do is at night, that's when like I would go work out because I don't have any other time to do that. So I just stopped working out and started playing Red Dead.
He's a 350-pound version right now, by the way. You can't see him, but...
But Red Dead has
Yeah.
a built-in. Your body changes the more. So
Yeah,
while you weren't
true.
working out, your avatar was getting buffer and buffer.
Yeah.
So worth it.
And he was very live.
The
I should
avatar
say.
of Dorian Gray.
He lived off of pure cans of salmon. Like that was it.
What was your facial hair situation? In
Oh,
that
I
game?
did a mustache the whole time.
Okay, good.
Mustache. And if everything else started growing in, I'd get real upset and go shave it off. And go back to camp just for
Get
that.
real upset.
I spent a 45-minute horse ride just to keep
That's
this
the thing with
mustache.
that game.
Just to get
Yeah.
back to camp.
Yeah.
Shave that shit off. So I played Red Dead for a very long time, and then after that, it ended, and I was dealt with the loss.
I don't want to
Yeah.
work out again.
And so
And you're not an online guy.
no.
Okay,
And so I had Spider-Man sitting there as well because it came with the PS4, and so I started playing that as well. And
You hear that,
Your wife-
marketers? It
your wife
works.
chose
Bundles work.
quite well.
I know she's great.
How did she do this?
I
Oh,
think
those
she
are good
asked
games,
around.
yeah.
I think she's
Wow.
she's a good planner.
Yeah.
When she gets a gift, she doesn't fuck around.
Very impressive.
And so I started playing Spider-Man, and then it got so overwhelming for me, and I was getting so frustrated playing it that I thought I don't need this in my life. You know what it is? It's like the last month of fantasy football
Yep.
for me. It was like,
Bad month.
why am I doing this to myself? I don't feel good.
Bad month. Somebody
Yeah.
gets injured, and you're like, Alvin Kamara didn't get a touchdown this week. And, you're just like, and you hate everybody.
Totally.
It's like
Totally.
the league is conspiring against you.
Yeah.
It felt like this game was conspiring against me. Where
Yeah.
I would start playing, and then I started realizing how stressed I was because everything is a fight scene, with the exception of I have to go like change
Hey,
some.
fuck you! It's Spider-Man. What were you expecting?
Where are all the epic, the legendary animals I'm supposed to hunt?
Oh my God, Red Dead would be such an amazing first game to play. You would never recover from it.
I thought that's how just what games were. And then I started playing
Doesn't every
Spider-Man.
game?
That's
Well, and
interesting
rifle?
because it will get even better because graphics just get better, and I don't mean to take it for granted, but it's true. So if you're like adulting and you haven't played a game, and you check in, you're like, oh, so we're at this level now,
Yeah.
and you happen to play. No, that's the best looking game there is, like by a long shot.
And the
Yeah.
best, just like fundamentally, like with the things that you can do in the game, the freedom you have. Spider-Man. So I'll tell you, just like a brief rundown of what Spider-Man is. Spider-Man.
Okay,
is a
wait,
game-
wait, wait, whoa, whoa.
Is that what you
whoa,
wanted?
Oh,
whoa,
yeah, we want it.
whoa.
Okay.
We definitely want it.
But first, we have to pass a checkpoint, which I believe in this game the metaphor would be thwipping. Worth whipping.
Well, it'd usually be like you'd stop on some rooftop research lab, right?
This
like,
is what
cue
was
that up.
This is what was short-sighted about this gimmick, where we separate our segments by checkpoint. Every game,
because we're really cute.
Yeah.
as we go
A
forward,
save point, yeah.
every game though is just becoming, well, it saves like every 3 minutes in the background randomly. We've lost the we're like, you go by the balloon and you hit it Sonic style.
I just thought that you were gonna settle on bling bling forever. Like you, like,
Bling bling.
Yeah.
Checkpoint number 1, which takes us to the speed run. We usually ask our guest to explain the game as quickly as possible, whatever that means to them. Both explain the game and as quickly as possible.
Okay. All right. Needless to say, this is an act of judgment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Start
all right.
the clock.
Spider-Man is a game in which you fight every single villain that's ever been in the Spider-Man universe. It's very tense. You have to learn a lot of different moves to do it. And in the meantime, you fucking just make processors, data processors, the whole game.
Stop the clock.
That was an excellent run. It truly was an excellent run. I like that.
You
There's like
spent
the
a lot of
logline
time.
version of this run. Yeah. I really like it. We didn't talk about the kind of game.
Well, that's the
kind
thing
of
is,
game?
so people, you can tackle it from plot, what is the
Yeah.
game about? Gameplay, what is the game about?
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything urgent that we need to say to someone who hasn't played this game?
If you haven't played this game and you are a mildly familiar gamer, it's the Spider-Man version of the Batman games.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum
Yeah.
games,
It's
yeah.
a third-person action
Sandbox.
platformy kind of game, you know, with a lot of button mashing, punching stuff, and it's open world-ish.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise it's the same.
Yes. I was very stressed out by the open world, though.
Did it?
Yes, in a way that I didn't get from
Red Dead's open world.
I
Okay.
know, but it was very tangible and easy for me to understand. As soon as there were bad guys that were in a crowd, like mugging somebody, I could not find them. Like I can't. I'm just like. And that's the worst part is that I'm walking around the city as Spider-Man. I'm not swinging around. I'm walking around looking for these
Yeah.
bad guys, and I can't find them. And everyone's going, "Oh shit, Spider-Man, Spider-Man!" I'm like,
Oh,
"Leave me
yeah.
alone."
Yeah.
Let me focus.
Everybody
I gotta
stop talking
focus.
so I can find this
I don't
gunman.
need you to mock me right now. I just need you to let me do this, okay?
Yeah. So there was no point. It wasn't like I was just accepted in this world.
Yeah.
I stand out. I'm like a beacon in this world.
Yeah,
and
you
so
are.
if I'm walking around New York City, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting very frustrated that I can't find who's being mugged or who's being killed in the background.
J. Jonah Jameson is right. You're disruptive, Spider-Man.
I was very disruptive.
Yeah, we'll get all
No,
right.
I'm loving this. I think we should just officially call this his rant, right? He went right into it.
Yeah, for the sake of
Oh shit! I
formalities,
flew past the stop point, the checkpoint.
we're gonna fail to prevent a mugging, watch a woman get gunned down in the street, fade to black, and reload an autosave, which is a checkpoint of sorts, and into the rants portion.
You're gonna experience all those feelings real quick, and then
I'm gonna make Soren player 1, but
Yeah.
that can be your rant if you want to.
No,
just
I have more to say about that. I'm heated
Go,
about
man,
this
go.
game.
let's do it.
Also, they teach you everything on the fly, which is fine if they then
Said
if
the
there's
spider.
if there's some repetition along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's as long as there's repetition where they're like, hey, if you do this triangle and this square at the exact same time when your focus bar is full, you'll do some sick move.
It's pretty cool.
And now you keep doing that over and over again for a while. But they don't do that. It's like you get to do that once and they're like, all right, moving on. Here's 20 more moves you can do. And I was like, whoa, wait. And so what I end up doing is I just pick like 3. And I'm like, well, this is how I'm getting through the game. I'm going to slide through people's legs and kick them in the back. And that's going to be my MO.
that's the Bowie.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Bowie Spider.
This may
Yeah.
be biased by the fact that I do a lot of therapy, but I'm like, isn't that life, man? In your childhood, you're like, I'm sure there's 12 other healthier ways I could cope and navigate, but these are the 3 that I figured out. I'm just going to do that.
That's really, really,
Profound.
yeah. I think I like that a lot. That's exactly the way I played this game. I tried the path that like the game wanted me to take, and I was
Yeah.
like, it's teaching me all these great things. I did them once. I'm not going to remember on the fly. I barely remember where the square button is. Like,
Right, because you barely even use the controller.
Right.
And
So-
PlayStation's a big change if you've
yeah.
gone
So
from any of the other
that's
ones.
the thing is the last game that I played before any of these was the first Halo.
Xbox. Okay.
And
How
so
was the jump for you? How was the jump?
easy.
Yeah,
Floaty if it was Halo.
But
Burn.
this is also how far back I go. Is like I use an inverted controller.
Oh,
like,
no.
like I'm steering
I
a
love this.
jet. Like if I'm gonna pull back, that
Like
means
a
I'm looking
flight
up.
simulator,
And
yeah.
if I'm pushing forward, I'm looking down.
Yeah.
And
You're like, all right, Spider-Man, let's yoke down on this mugger.
so I knew I had to change the controller right off the bat. But still, like that's where I'm coming from.
Sure.
It's like the Bond days.
Yeah, a ways back.
Yeah.
I got you.
And isn't it, Adam, have you played one of those? Like I just did the rare replay and played Perfect Dark, and as a throwback to being authentic.
You did it with the weird controls?
No, it starts with the weird
Yeah.
controls, and I really was like, we did this? How did I ever do this? This is insane now. to
About a
me.
year and a half ago, I got on a Turok Dinosaur Hunter kick.
Yeah.
So much so
That's
that
the
I tried to
weirdest
get
one.
this podcast to cover it, and that didn't happen.
Perfect Dark is the same, where they separate the controller. It's like one thing is to strafe your body around,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
one is to
Yeah.
look. It's
Yeah.
I
terrible.
remember Perfect
Yeah.
Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No good.
It was the Bond sequel.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of
Yeah.
I'm not into
There was a
this.
collective May.
Yeah.
So I don't know the controllers that well, and you're really on the fly. I mean,
Yeah.
the first thing you're fighting is Wilson Fisk in
Yeah.
the game, and there's people with rocket launchers. There's
Yeah.
a lot going on, and
It's very intense.
All right.
and so I was grinding my teeth and like eating the insides
Yeah.
of my cheek, and I was like, this isn't healthy.
So that's Soren's rant. He's very confused, and the controls are hard to use.
This isn't healthy, is the log line of that?
Player 2, plugging in. You mind if all right?
Yeah, win the level, Luigi. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as someone who did 100% this game and all the DLCs, I just like to say I don't have children. and I wish I did, and I pine for them every day. But instead, I got really good at Spider-Man.
There's been a 12-minute edit lip-syncing all of us crying before we continue.
But I just think my main impression of the game that I am like, we have to talk about this game because X. The only thing it brings to the table that's unique, which is not to say everything has to be unique, because I think it replicates a bunch of the Arkham Asylum shit well, but the reason I'm like, this has legs is 8 legs is because I love Spider-Man's always been my favorite. Dan O'Brien and I literally had to like have a serious conversation about whose persona on Cracked was allowed to like Spider-Man, because it would be redundant. But we both genuinely feel that way about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's like almost mythological.
Yeah,
that story.
and-
Okay.
Every Spider-Man game, my favorite of which was the Sega CD one where you go around the whole city fighting Wilson Fisk,
Okay.
tries to replicate web slinging, and you're like, cool, fine, whatever, it gets me through the level. This was the first game where I'm like, we finally have the technology to replicate what it would feel like to be Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to go around and around and around the world forever, and it felt amazing. And it meant a lot to me because I don't have children.
I should have. Yeah.
This is my child.
I really did like the web slinging.
Yeah.
But I felt like I wasn't living up to what Spider-Man should be
Should
either.
do.
I was like running into buildings and then running up them and then just standing on top and being like,
Taking a look, taking a quick look around.
Yeah,
Did you get a hang of the bouncy, like when you land on a point and,
And
bounce
you
off?
spring off.
No.
That's key to
Yeah.
keeping it fluid and making you seem cool.
Both the Batman and the Spider-Man games assume that you're willing to like engage in this rhythmic thing to keep it going.
And that you're a parkour fan.
Yes.
And you want to look cool.
It
Yes.
looked. That's what it was depressing for me, is that when it was going right, it was looking very cool.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was doing that by accident. Like I knew I had like the web sling down. I knew I could like hold down on that R button and then hold down on that trigger and then hit X, and I could get up in the air a little bit more. I could do like my
The
web
dive.
pulls.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
could
the
do
web
those.
poles were good. Yeah.
But then, without fail, I'm running smack dab into a building at some point and just running up it and then stopping at the top of it and then just like kind of walking across the roof. Oh, pigeons. I'll walk around those. No problem. And then jumping off the other side.
Also, when you get to Central Park, you're just kind of bummed out because you can't really swing on
It's
anything.
nothing,
You're like,
yeah.
come on.
It's rough.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
hard to-
reminded me of that scene from Homecoming where you're
Yeah.
like, I get it, but I don't want to live it.
From-
Player 3 plugging in.
So I don't care about superhero stuff.
Oh.
You know, like I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I was faking it at Crack the entire time. I think I watched one superhero movie the time I was there. I hate
Which
them.
movie?
I watched at least the first Avengers, because we all went to it, didn't
Yeah.
we? That might have been the only one I watched. So here's what I'll say about this game. It made me like the Spider-Man story, which I had never read before. It tells a lot of the Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
And not the origin story part, which I think, sure, I've seen that movie. But like the who is the character and what matters to him part. There's a lot of cutscenes in this game. A ton of cutscenes.
Yeah.
You probably watch a good 3 movies worth of like content, and it's like pretty good. The Doc Ock story is really good.
It's one of the, and this is saying a lot because
Yeah.
there's been good ones, but
Yeah.
it's one of the best J. Jonah Jamesons ever.
I like the way they adapted him for this story.
Yeah.
I just think that
He's like Alex Jones in this.
yes, and it's perfect. This is a good outing for telling the comic book story, which is not what I expect out of a video game. Like I played the Batman games,
Yeah.
and mostly they're fun, but like, and then Poison Ivy's in it.
They're
then
trying
Mr.
to-
Freeze is
They
in it,
presume
and,
you
like,
already are a fan.
And this
And
game,
they're trying to live in the Chris Nolan Batman.
yes,
specifically.
and kind of, yeah. And this game was like, no, we're gonna actually do a full story of Spider-Man, as though you don't know these characters, as though you don't care about them enough that you already see it all coming.
Yeah.
And it worked for me because I'm not that big of a fan of Spider-Man, and because of it, it's my favorite superhero game I've ever played. This is
Ooh.
definitely my favorite superhero game I've ever played. And I'll get into all the reasons why. I also completed it, which I didn't even want to do, but when I knew that we were gonna talk about it, I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. And then it was like in 2 weeks,
You blew
I
through
finished it. It was amazing. I love this game.
Bling bling. We pass another checkpoint and get into the body of our episode. Game on.
This is where we argue about any points that we want to,
Or
engage
just
in other conversation.
collaboratively deep dive into
Sure.
the topics of the game. So the first thing that came to mind for me, well, I guess because I'm first in, last out kind of guy, but because we did a Telltale episode,
Yes, we did.
Adam, and I think I mentioned this, but to me, one of the most exciting things about Spider-Man was how the DLCs were unveiled, and I don't know if they're going to keep doing this, but it mimicked comic books to the point where they're like, next time, Spider-Man fights so-and-so, and you pay $8 and you get the DLC, and it adds like a 4-hour story to the game.
Which is great.
I think that's such a good distribution model. Yeah.
Well, it's so okay. So I want to at least make this like talk about the like what it's like to play this as a game for a little bit.
Sure.
Before we get too into like the storytelling of it, because I think that is where it's, and the reason why is because I can't get enough of what it's like to learn how to play video games on this game. I will never get enough of that.
Well,
Tell me more about it, Soren.
Well, because my girlfriend Jennifer, I try to get into video games, and
Yeah.
she likes them and likes watching me play them. It's just a very real thing that I think we take for granted,
Yeah.
which is that she didn't play them growing up. And there's even like symbols that are in every game. And she goes like, "Oh, what is that? Do I have to jump?" And I'm like, "That means it's auto-saving your game." Like
Oh,
the
interesting.
idea
Yeah,
of
yeah.
not, I took for granted how much I'm keeping abreast of how video games work. And if I stopped for 10 years, I would be confused.
This game it assumes the most that you have played every other version of this game before it and all the Batman. That's why they don't
what's
train you.
So did Red Dead, though. Red
Yes, it
Dead
did.
has crazy demanding controls.
Yeah,
yes,
it
but
does.
in each one
Why,
it tells
Soren?
you in Red Dead it always tells you like for the entire first part of the game, it's no matter what you're about to do, it's like you're gonna want to press triangle right now to get on your horse.
That's true,
You're gonna
it
want,
does.
you want to lead your horse? Oh, it's easy. It's square, buddy. And like,
Hey, you're the amigo, my amigo.
and so at every single turn, the game is telling you exactly what to push. Spider-Man does it a little bit when you're trying to you climb through vents. And it's like you want to pop through those vents. Triangle's the way to do it. But
You want to murder that man? Take a mosey on over to O, my friend.
yeah, that was the thing.
It's like Sam Ellison's narrating this game.
So
glad
much
you
of
stopped by
the
for my
fighting, they
advice.
tell you like right up front. They're like, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. Now go. And like, oh, you unlocked a new move. Cool. You unlocked 6 new moves. Great. And you're like, no, I can't do all these things.
Fuck yeah, Spider-Man,
And so then,
dude.
then I'm not taking advantage of all these cool things, and I know that they're there,
Yes,
and
you
that's
feel shame.
endlessly
You
frustrating.
feel a sense of shame.
Yeah.
I'm not Spider-Man enough. You have to live up to this game.
I don't deserve to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Did
Maybe
you
it's
end
lesser.
up? Was there a super move you ended up settling on? Because in my mind, there's a very clear one super move that is the most effective thing,
Okay,
hands
I'm
down.
intrigued to hear
Nothing
what
else to use.
So what I would do a lot of times is punch somebody up in the air and then drag them down with my webs.
That's
and
a good one.
slam them into
Love
the
that.
ground.
Yeah, I love
Would
that.
you ever do the jump up and swing and leg kick them out of the air?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even know I could
That's
do
Off,
that.
how-
off of rooftops?
That
That's
but
how you live up there.
towards end game when you get like teams of SWAT
Yeah.
armored guys on rooftops,
Yeah.
you just start going boop, you're off the edge, boop, you're off the edge, boop, you're off the edge.
For the most part, all I do is if an enemy was really far away, I'm gonna hit triangle so I can like zoom over to him and slap him in the face. But a lot of times when I do that, I hang on triangle for too long, and all I do is this weak little like kind of pull on the guy.
pull him
and
forward
he go,
toward you.
"Ugh."
Yeah.
And that was it. And then I was like, oh, damn. Just wait a second. I'll get it right, sir. Just hang out over there.
You stop. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
That was true of, and I think it's very fascinating because the creator of the Arkham games, and anyone who's like analyzes gameplay, I think, has realized the Arkham games were so impactful because they legitimately introduced a new element to gaming that has since been copied in many games, which is rhythm-based fighting instead of
Yeah, the punches.
X is not a sword swipe. X is, if you press it at the right time, Batman will do cool shit. If you miss it, he'll fumble. But there's pre-choreographed, awesome-looking shit that he'll just unspool if you
Yeah,
keep on the right
right.
rhythm. And it's funny because, like, originally the Batman game was being designed to compete with Dance Dance Revolution and was going to be an arcade
Oh.
game where you, like, just did rhythmic shit and Batman fought people. And I think it's so cool what it became, but I've never played types of games where there's more pressure on. It's like embarrassing if you fuck it up. It's like you're in a play and you dropped a line.
Yes.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Spider-Man. I'm not being really Spider-Man right now. Like,
See, I didn't feel any pressure to be Spider-Man at the level you guys
Well, that's
seem
your
to.
problem.
It was really,
Yeah.
it was
Sounds
very
like-
uncomfortable for me that I was not being Spider-Man the best.
Did your wife watch you, and did it matter?
No, she
Okay.
didn't.
All right.
There were times. This is not about Red Dead, but there were times playing Red Dead where I'd be like, "Come here, I'm in the West Grizzlies. You got to see this field. It's just a meadow of flowers, and I'm watching the sunset." Like,
right. And like
I wanted to come
a
see it.
rain's
She was like,
rolling in.
"Fine."
Yeah,
She
and she's
slumps
like, "No,
in the
that is
room.
very pretty.
She's
Yeah,
like,
that's nice."
that lighting engine is dope. Yeah.
But no, she never watched any Spider-Man. If anything, she would come downstairs to ask me to turn it down.
Yeah.
because it is just explosions and shit the whole time.
Yeah, it's very
Ripping
action
car
packed.
doors off and slamming them into people.
The pace of it is really fast.
It's frenetic.
Yeah, and quick. Like it happens immediately, right? You're in the middle of the third act of a different movie when you start this game, right? Like that Wilson Fisk thing happens.
That's the very first
Yeah.
thing.
I mean,
and then
the other big Arkham Asylum ripoff game, Middle Earth, is also like that. It's like, boom, you're in Mordor. Kill an infinite number of orcs immediately.
True.
Batman eases into it more because Batman had something this doesn't, which I also want to get to is I really like this game and think it's promising direction for Spider-Man to go in, but you can tell it's the first entry in a franchise. One way being that it's very like, yes, this was very common only 4 or 5 years ago, but now most open world games have tricks and algorithms to make the like landscape that's just retiling itself
Yeah.
still be like fool you. Be like, yeah, but there's a peasant on that rock and
Right,
not over
right.
on that rock. Spider-Man is funny because they clearly just wanted the first entry out. And it's like, where the fuck is everyone? Because you'll
It's
run
a little empty, sure.
You'll run up a building of thousands and thousands of rooms, and every room is identical, meaning the same denim jacket is thrown over the chair, and no one's in any of them. Like,
Where are they getting this
every
fucking
building is
denim in the
fully.
city?
Right. But I just mean in general, I did think the world was less immersive than it should be, and I think it will easily get better
Yeah.
as they just are like multiply the assets they have.
Yeah, the next console.
Because Spider-Man's always going to stay in New York. So like the Arkham games,
Yeah.
the environment will just get better and better
just keep
because they'll
building
build
the
more
city.
assets.
Forgive me if these are sacrilegious questions. Why can't Spider-Man travel to a
he
different
can.
city? And
He
have
does in
a-
the most recent movie, but
He's in Europe.
Okay.
because he's so beholden to those city walls. Like,
Tall buildings.
Yeah.
yeah, you need you're taking away his best ability
Because
you,
of the
if you
height.
put him if you
Right.
put him in a forest or something like that.
That's true. Well,
I don't think web swinging is a thing you could do on trees. It
Oh my
has to
God,
be big,
dude.
giant, solid blocks.
I love the idea that we're gonna parse out where his web might work.
You just made me want to see like a Kurosawa-inspired like samurai structured film where Peter Parker is like in the woods and somehow has to fight people, and it's all like, right, like you said, like the web is not going to give you a long swing. It's just going to like quickly pull you 5 feet over to that tree.
Right.
And he's like zipping between the trees and taking out ninjas and shit.
Or I mean, again, there are other big cities besides New York. Like
Sure.
Hong Kong is a place.
Yeah.
You know, he could swing over that bay.
Hobbs and Shaw and Parker.
Holy shit.
Ooh.
I'm
sorry,
just
but, like,
bringing it up
yeah.
because, like,
Yeah.
but like the funny thing is, I bring it up and like I knew you were gonna say this, and I knew the look of despondency would settle on our faces. But you can't leave New York. Why is
Sure you
that
can.
true?
I guess that's
though?
I
true of a
don't
lot
feel
of
that way.
superheroes, though. I know
Yeah.
it's because you're not immersed in the world, but like Batman is Gotham's.
Right.
He belongs there.
That's the one that I
And-
understand.
That's the only
and
one. Yeah.
there are a few. I mean, even like subsets of New York. Daredevil sticks
Hell's
strictly as Hell's Kitchen,
Yeah.
and
That's interesting.
They-
Luke Cage is, I think, Brooklyn.
and they live. That's just. Oh, or is he the Bronx? I can't remember.
He might
where
be the
Luke
Bronx,
Cage-
yeah.
They.
But the point is, he sticks
This
to his
is like where they're the
area.
superhero, and Superman, like
their
when they
area.
started, they thought like that's what we do. He lives in Metropolis, but then they were like, Superman's too big for
He's
a
too
fucking
big of a
city.
deal. Yeah.
I recently
gotta go
learned
everywhere.
Metropolis is based on Toronto, which is a weird place to think of Superman. He's like, I will guard the entire Earth. Naturally, I will be based in Toronto. The beating heart of Earth.
Have you read the
civilization.
Toronto Sun? It's some of the best journalism in all of the Northern Hemisphere.
Like, I understand why Batman is beholden to the New York equivalent, right? I get that.
I
And
don't even think Gotham is New York, but that's a bad theory.
Okay, fair enough. And I can understand why the Punisher can't work in the suburbs of Orange County. I understand that, right?
I
Oh my
love
god,
all
ideas!
these ideas. No, like,
But like,
Taking the Punisher to the docks.
but like, where
no,
where in
like,
the world is a
middle of the woods in Oregon? The Punisher.
where in the world is a plucky teenager who springs from wall to wall not welcome? And why are we so not willing to entertain that idea? Because
Yeah.
that's a way to make this game franchise more interesting as a game franchise.
You treat it like Assassin's Creed.
You treat it like Grand Theft Auto.
I'd love to
Put him
see him in
anywhere,
India. All right,
Have
that's
you
all I
seen
get.
it? He's over there.
No, I just think it would be a great like terrain for Spider-Man to be in specifically.
Well, and like we're introducing the idea of another Spider-Man in this one, right? We're
Well,
introducing
Miles
the-
Morales
Yes.
is introduced, yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
know,
I also that's what I like about video games are able to go crazier, which usually means staying truer to the comics.
yeah.
Because movies will always go like, all right, we're already
We
asking
need to
them
make
to
our money."
accept a lot.
Yeah.
Let's not include 5 wacky as shit villains. Let's just try and get the talking raccoon across. Next movie we'll add one more. But I love how in video games they're as crazy as the comics. Like you'll play a Spider-Man game and be like, who the fuck is this goofy motherfucker I'm fighting? I never heard of him unless you're deep into the
Right.
comics, you know?
Right.
Why is he just a negative image of a normal person? He has no powers.
We put a lot of time to that character.
Why does he have so much of the story? I don't know
It's,
that man.
it's more than a lion's share, and
He's the main villain, I would say.
I agree.
What's his
And,
name? Mr. Negative?
Doctor who gives a shit. I don't know.
Me.
That's actually the way you described it, Michael, is a really good and an apt description of why I had such a hard time with this game. Is that in most like the Marvel movies, they do really take you through. They're like, listen, this is Iron Man. This is what he's about. This
Yeah.
is what this is what everybody's about. This is what they can do. And in Spider-Man, the game, they're just like it's like jumping into the Avengers first.
Yep, it
You're
really
like,
is.
I don't. Okay, there's a lot going on here. There's a green woman, and she has a sister who's a robot, maybe. And
Well, and also
I
when
love, yeah, they want you to be excited about something you may not even know. Like, I love when, like, in a comic book based thing, someone will come in and they'll be like, hi, I'm Moira McTaggart. And it'll zoom in and it'll be like, Moira McTaggart? Are you excited? And you'll be like, I don't know who that is or what's going to happen.
That's true. They also didn't
the
give
same
you
shame.
at least 2 or 3 of the markers that a casual fan would know. They didn't give you
Right.
Green Goblin till towards the end you figured out how that's going to play out. They didn't give you Venom. He's not in this game. Or Sandman, which I remember from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Although they are fucking obsessed as a franchise, like cross media. If you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, great film by the way, but like, it's funny to me that Spider-Man is the most guilty of like, we know he got bit by a radioactive spider. Like, I don't care about that part. Jesus Christ. Now they're doing it with Doc Ock introduced as good in Act 1, and you're like, we know he's gonna turn evil. It's fun.
But they did a good job with it, though. They did a good job with it.
I just think Spider-Man is one of the most repetitive.
Yeah.
They seem to have a great lack of confidence in having Spider-Man do things other than start. Right, start.
And this game pretended like it was gonna be the answer to that problem, right? Mm-hmm. He's 25 now. He's been doing this a while. He used to be a photographer. You know what I mean? Like, and yet we go back to the tropes, right?
Yeah.
Like the safe stories. It's true. Spider-Man has so many acts that we could watch. What did you think of what they did with Mary Jane in this game?
Well, how...
I didn't. It's okay. You can spoil it. I don't know actually what happens with Mary Jane.
Okay. Did you ever get to any of her missions? Because I was wondering, because her missions are stripped down controls, and I was wondering if they felt easier or anything. Okay.
Yeah, you play as her power, like her basically intruding into various situations as a journalist.
Oh. So it's more of a hide and seek.
A little bit of hide and seek. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, you'd have liked it. I think you liked it. How did you feel about it? Because you care about the sanctity of the comics, I assume. How did it feel as an adaptation of her character?
Comics are not sanctified, though. You know what I mean?
Sure,
they themselves reboot it and do it, and they're like, Mary Jane's a zombie now.
In this timeline, she's a Western, cowboy.
I thought they were doing everything very traditionalist.
Okay.
And following the comics very closely, which I'm like,
so her being
fine with
a protagonist on the level of like actually being involved in the capers instead.
Oh, I see. Adam's pissed that they elevated a woman. And
so angry. Thank you for giving me the platform.
Mary Jane should be at home cooking.
No, but isn't that different?
Spider pies.
That's not what she did in the comics, is it? I'm just asking.
That stuff was relegated more to Gwen Stacy, who turned out to be Spider-Girl. It was like... It was really like Archie and Betty and Veronica. Spider-Man had one girlfriend who he protected and one girlfriend who's kind of more Joan in the Jets. They're like, gonna protect herself. And it was like, who's he gonna end up with? And then Gwen Stacy, I believe, gets her neck broke by Green Goblin, so he ends up with Mary Jane.
Oh, interesting.
And it's a happy ending.
Some decisions just get made for you.
You wait, it sorts it out. Yeah.
So, one of the quintessential Marvel moments. That's like, the Final Fantasy VII moment where Aerith gets stabbed.
I'm aware of it.
In the Marvel
I'm
Pantheon.
refusing to play the game.
That's one of those. Is Green Goblin. There's an amazing Alex Ross painting from Marvels of Green Goblin flying above with it's Spider-Man. I love this because it's almost a cracked article, but then they abandon it immediately. It's the one time they obeyed the laws of physics as far as falling and spiderwebbing is concerned.
Yeah.
He accidentally attaches the web near her neck while she's like plummeting off a bridge and then attaches it to Green Goblin's like thing, thinking it'll stop her fall. And it does, but it breaks her neck. And I'm like, that's the one and only time we even nodded to
the force.
Gravity.
The centripetal force issues of this.
I just watched Tim Burton's Batman 1 for the first time, and he fucking continuously just grapples 1,000 feet up, grabs someone, and they dead stop in the middle of the air. And I'm like, your arms would fucking rip out of your sockets, and blood would just shoot out of your torso.
And yet, I just watched Hobbs and Shaw, and it had one of my single favorite defying force things ever, where men jumped out of a window, and other men with a rifle shot grappling hooks into their backs to stop them from falling to the pavement.
Wow.
Nice.
In the first act. Enjoy this movie, my friends.
And I'm glad we're talking about that, because I do think Spider-Man should be introduced into that universe.
This could be a whole other podcast.
Okay,
I did this with Dave. I totally agree that there's a bigger universe. In Fast
I
and
heard
Furious.
that episode, but you guys didn't light on Spider-Man specifically, and now that we're talking about it, I realize, like, Spider-Man, Hobbs, and Shaw would be a good trio.
Just take Hong Kong. Yeah.
They're wandering around a bamboo forest doing ninjutsu.
Yeah. They jump a car, he whips onto the car and flies behind them.
We don't care about anything. It's true. Okay, so to return to the Mary Jane point briefly, because I have two things that I observed about that. It seemed like they're trying to solve the problem that a lot of big game franchises are trying to solve right now, which is like, well, the game started out with damsel in distress, right? Or like the property we're adapting started out with characters who are damsels in distress, right? Super Mario Odyssey had this problem, Zelda has this problem, and now Spider-Man has this problem. And so they give you these missions where you play as Mary Jane, who is basically an investigative journalist who puts herself in danger.
She does stuff.
Yes, but the question is that I have is not should they have done that, because it's great. The question is it really doing what they want it to do if the experience of playing as that character is so much more limited compared to Spider-Man? Do you see what I'm saying? Like when you play Spider-Man, you feel powerful.
Right.
You play Mary Jane, she has 2 buttons and she mostly hides.
Yeah,
you're doing it?
It's an escort mission just for yourself. Like,
Right.
You're trying
and
to get this own character out of danger.
Yeah. Does that make it feel like less regressive to you?
It depends how much it's hard to tell how much people internalize. Like, does that subtle implication that the female character is less capable than the male character instill anything in a child playing the game? I don't know.
Because we're learning? I don't know.
But I would say that in the context of the story, why would Mary Jane be able to web sling around? Like, it would be weird if she was as capable as Spider-Man. The whole point is this is a story about the one and only special guy, Spider-Man. Everyone can't be him or he's not special Spider-Man anymore.
Well, there's a lot of people that get superpowers in this game.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that crazy that she...
Well, and I'm certainly not trying to be like a things have to stay the way they are guy.
Nope, nobody is.
I'm Little Mermaid can be whatever the fuck it is.
Sure.
But I guess I would argue that in the case of stories about meta-humans, there of course has to be like a bell curve. Like Harry Potter has to be the only Harry Potter, otherwise everyone's Harry Potter.
And then it's not a story.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Then it's not a story. I agree with that. And I'm not saying that the 3 approaching middle-aged white men there around this table can solve it.
Yeah, we're going to crack this code.
But I did want to bring it up because it was like... Because it made me think as I was playing it. It was like, they're trying to solve this problem, and this is how they chose to do it. And like, is it working?
Yeah.
You know?
For me,
I don't know.
It worked because my brain is fully matured, and despite always trying to improve and investigate prejudices that I have internalized without,
Sure.
That aside, I am not overtly misogynist, and I am no longer trying to build my view of the world through media, like per se, as much. So,
yeah,
for me,
that's interesting.
For a responsible adult imbibing it, I feel like I'm perfectly able to go, of course she's not as powerful. She's a normal human. This is just a way to get refreshed by having a different kind of gameplay in the mix. But I do think it's an interesting and vital topic that I don't know enough about to speak on. Of like, but would an 8-year-old get the vague impression that dudes are superheroes and ladies are not? You know what I mean? I don't know. Well, I don't know how the intricacies of normalization work.
Or I guess maybe I'll put it a different way. And this is just a playing experience version of this question, right? So, like, the thing I noticed as I was playing it is that I was like, oh, I don't want to play another Mary Jane level. Like, just give me...
Oh, I liked them for a change of pace.
I did not.
Okay.
I was bored because I want it to be 10 all the time, right? Yeah. And it's worse. And then I'm like, oh, but I shouldn't feel this way because of what they're trying to do. So there's a weird cognitive dissonance, right? And I'm like, how do you overcome that?
No, but I'll say this. They had 40, not that many, but 25 special suits you could get.
Yes, you could.
Unless I'm mistaken, none were Spider-Gwen.
No, they were all for Spider-Man.
I don't know why you couldn't have thrown that in. Because you're like, here's cartoon Spider-Man. Here's Spider-Ham here's the pig Spider-Man.
Here's him with a bag over his head.
There could have been a female Spider-Man skin. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Why not? Anyway, just
Soren. Yeah, I think that it's hard because they did... The gender exists, the gender difference exists, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance that's who they chose to be.
Right.
The character who's like, well, I have to hide from everybody. That's my only way to get through this world.
And still keep the story intact, so to speak. Yeah.
And they're still writing her in the more modern sense where they go out of their way almost to be like, listen, she's really cool. She's very capable protagonist, well-rounded in her own right. And you're like, yeah, Adam's not wrong, though, that you're like, Yeah, but you didn't change the underlying formula of the story.
Nor
He's
can
the
you.
prince and she's the damsel in distress.
They did as much as they could. They
Yeah.
took away almost all agency in their relationship from him and gave it to her. Like when you watch the cutscenes,
Yeah.
like she's the only one that's
But
deciding.
that's
much.
also one of the interesting luxuries of being a white male in
Sure.
American culture is that it doesn't mean as much to me because I'm so spoiled with representation. Like, if they made the whole Spider-Man game, Spider-Man is a woman named, Patricia Parker, I wouldn't actually care. I would have
Right.
played it the same way
Yeah.
and been like, this is fun.
for sure.
And yet, if you're not at the top of the pyramid, so to speak, it might have meant a lot, in the reverse
100%.
situation. Yeah.
You're just in listening to your point, Adam. I feel like I'm realizing that Spider-Man, the whole storyline of Spider-Man, has a lot of conservative values to it that I didn't anticipate and I didn't think about before, and especially around just the idea of how, like the Christian Science idea that science is bad, man. Like,
Yeah, it goes wrong. Man.
That's what it's about.
science
always,
at every
yeah.
single turn goes bad in the Spider-Man universe. It's everybody's overreaching. Like anybody who wants to improve
And
the world in
desperate.
any way,
Yeah.
is overreaching, and they get punished for it. They turn into a lizard, or like we went to space and we accidentally brought back the symbiote.
And it's usually because they're trying to cure cancer, like something hugely noble.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that in the Spider-Man After Hours, I think, is that it's like
it's not just curing cancer.
one of the hidden theses of Spider-Man is like Batman fights our idea of the quintessential mugger, like a dirty like mugger.
Right.
Spider-Man fights super science.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's his enemy. Yeah.
I mean, but again, it's never just I just want to cure cancer. Like no, it's not that. It's I want to cure cancer
'Cause
because
I have
I'm
cancer.
a maniac in some way.
and I'm dying of
Yes,
cancer.
I'm
like
dying
you
of
said, there's
cancer.
desperation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dying of cancer, and I'm also power hungry. It's all three things.
Yeah.
It's never just look. I need to cure cancer because I have it. Can't you understand that? Of course I could.
Well, I think Doc Ock, he was trying to create like a free energy source for
And
the
yet-
world, and then just the arms he built were entirely incidental. He's like, and these are some cool arms I built to move the radioactive isotopes around, and now they fuse to my back, so this is my thing now.
But it was fixing a muscular dystrophy thing that he had
In the game,
Yeah.
it is, but
They're
not in the
always-
comic book.
Right.
Yeah, but it's true that that's how they foreshadow that they're going to be evil. It's
Right.
like, yeah, they're doing something good, but secretly it's self-serving.
Those
And-
arms are real
yeah.
evil, by the way. Those are some fucking demon arms that he's putting on his back.
Doc Ock I think Doc Ock and the Joker are the best superhero
Doc Ock
villains, period.
was very compelling in this game. Even though I already knew the story, I was like, this is good. This
I
is a
find
good
that it's
character.
like weirdly easy to make Doc Ock compelling. There's been a bunch of different versions, and I like them all. I really like Doc
Yeah,
Ock.
Alfred Molina is
Yeah.
one of
Yeah,
my
he was
favorite
great.
Doc Ock.
Yeah, he was great. And like,
And
yeah,
into
that's
the
a surprising
Spider-Verse
fact.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Octavia was great in Spider-Verse.
Yeah. So there's something primal about that we all resonate with. Anyway, I'm not trying to belabor the thing. I'm interested in watching games trying to solve the problem of representation and gender splits, and not know exactly how they can do it in a way that doesn't make me ask more questions.
I do, but I mean, it's sad that we're in the nascent stages of that, and like people trying to do that in media, but we are, and there's something almost kind of charming about how clumsy we are at it,
Right.
And
For
like,
sure.
that when they try and do it, and they're like, oh, I mean, like you were trying, but it's just like fumbling with. It's me on like button mashing. It's just me on the controller being like, I don't know, I'm trying to make a woman here.
You would have really enjoyed the way they did it in the Super Mario game that came out last year. So, like, you've played Mario enough to
It's
know.
a lot easier to do when you're at the level of children's fiction, though. You know
Oh
what I
no, they
mean?
butchered it
Yeah.
in Mario. They butchered it. So
really?
yeah. So Bowser kidnaps the princess. She's helpless the whole time, right? And then Mario goes through planets and like lands to save her. Shows up, like they have a fight. Her and Bowser have a fight, and then it settles into the scene where both Bowser and Mario are both like, "But I want her. But I want her." Like they're like one-upping each other for it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I've had it. That's enough with both of you. And then just goes off and does a travel. She just travels around the world, like gets in touch with herself for the next year. It's really
She goes
fucking
abroad.
weird.
So it's-
She goes abroad. And like Mario and Bowser both act as though she's never told them that she wasn't interested in them before. So like there's a moment where they console each other. This really happens.
Well, that means
it's
it's-
amazing.
it's-
It's like, whoa.
The exact same story as every Mario game. If after the end you said, "Oh, and P.S. Princess was like a badass with it chick."
Right.
you
Exactly.
know? She wasn't
Right.
disrespected and shit. Okay,
Right.
that's the story. Yeah.
Right. And it was very like, Just a grimace. Just
Yeah.
like it was the game version of a grimace.
Oh, he didn't do that right.
No, it was real bad. Bowser crying to himself, never having realized that she wasn't into it, was a real low moment
true.
in video games.
Crocodile tears.
Yeah.
All right, back to
Sorry.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. But anyway,
Speaking of Croc,
what do you think of it as far as longevity? Like, Soren, I would love you to speak more to. You said it's all fight scenes.
yeah.
Did
Well,
you
it's
not like that?
Well, I should also say that it's not just fight scenes. There's also a lot of like the puzzle stuff in the game. I also didn't find very compelling, or I didn't really like. I was sort of bored by it, especially the early stuff where you're building the arms and like you're getting those
Right.
to work again.
Yeah.
It was just very tedious.
games really try to sneak that one in on you.
There's a wide variety of tasks, and they're not all the best thing you've ever done.
but there is a lot of it.
There are a lot of
It's
very...
hometown buffet. Like there's a lot of it.
I enjoyed how various the tasks were.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But
That's good to know. I don't think I got far enough to know that there were like a bunch of other types.
But they're all kind of like they're all a version of flying through the air in a race of some kind against time.
Or fighting guys.
Punching guys.
What else can you
or
do?
there's the BioShock, make the current go all the way over.
yeah,
Which
yes.
is it doesn't feel like it fits, right? Like, it just doesn't
Right.
feel like it fits.
Yeah, that and then but the fighting, I'll say that like the fighting was fun, and I feel like if I was better at it and I understood the controls better, I mean I understood like what I need to do in any given moment when I see that my spider sense is going off, I'm near a wall. My first thought is, oh, I can do this really cool move. If I plant myself on the wall first, then I do this other move. Then I grab him around with spider webs around his neck and then flip him around.
Yeah.
Like that feels like the best version of this game. It's me watching somebody else play it who's good at it. But
Yeah.
Imagining
when
you're
it's-
that guy.
Yeah, when it's me doing it, it's like it just feels so wasted, and I do definitely get that sense of shame from it.
You're not willing to put in the 20 hours it takes to be the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trick, right?
But that is I think that's very true, and what's cool about these games. There aren't a lot of other games where I care that much about finesse. And in this game, when I think back on it, I'm like, I guess a lot of it is samey. Why did I
yeah.
like it and not get bored? Well, because I really could do that an infinite number of times. Like, take a crack at getting a perfect run.
Yeah.
Where Spider-Man is fluid the whole time and I just tear it up.
Well,
it's
because
always satisfying.
the game captures what makes Spider-Man a great thing.
Yeah.
Like, which most video game movie adaptations don't. They're stupid most of the time, right? Like,
Sure.
honestly, they are.
Yeah.
Whereas this game's like, you feel shame because you love Spider-Man so much. That's because the game brought you Spider-Man. Right?
The real, yeah.
Yeah,
what
this
it
is
would
the
really
feeling.
be like.
This is the
Yeah.
feeling of what it's like. Soaring through the air.
Great cast. I
Beating the
thought
hell out of somebody.
The
and-
voices were really good.
Yeah, the acting
Yeah.
was great. It was convincing, right?
Do you think we'll get bored of it as it continues? Like,
sure.
are you into it as a franchise? No. Okay.
Why would I be? Why,
At this point, I've played 3 Arkham games, and I would
I was
still
bored of
play
it.
more. Really, I was not.
Were you? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I love them. Yeah,
The third
I really
one?
like them. The third one introduced the thing where you look away and look back, and the Joker's face is right in your face.
I like that.
I love
yes.
that.
I like the narrative ideas. But then it introduced the Batmobile, and it was terrible.
The Batmobile tank shit
was
felt
horrible.
like
Yeah.
the filleriest filler to ever fill a fill.
Well, and the other problem is that, again, if you make a game, it has to have like at least 6 interesting villains, or you're going to spend a whole lot of time with Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
Right? And like, Spider-Man 3, the game, Spider-Man 3 game, who's in that game?
Right. You're gonna run out of
Hobgoblin?
villains pretty
Like,
quick.
We haven't had Mysterio yet, have we? Did we have Mysterio?
Yeah, but
No.
there's a finite number of villains, and
Sure.
you really, they busted their nut on this first one.
Yeah, they-
went
yes,
through
'cause they
all
wanted
the
to-
good ones.
because there's not going to be a second Spider-Man game if it's not good. They didn't give us Green Goblin. They didn't give us Venom. So like, there's 2 big ones, right? So
Yes.
you can see one more game.
Yeah.
Carnage.
You know? Yeah, sure.
That would be
Red
fun.
Venom.
Now we're getting into I don't know about that. I don't know.
Shocker was in it, right?
Yeah, I don't
Kingpin.
know who the hell that is.
There's Hydro Man. We didn't see him. Who cares? It's just a guy made
No
of water.
Sandman, no Mysterio.
We saw Rhino.
yeah,
Oh, we saw Vulture. We didn't see Chameleon.
Scorpio was
Did we see Kraven the Hunter in the game?
No.
no.
Tombstone?
You know what you might end up doing is fighting guys who are just kind of quasi bad guys. Like, what's that vampire's name?
Alistair
That
Smythe.
sucks people. Yeah, he sucks people's blood through his hands.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of a bad guy, but not really. He's like a Catwomanish type of person.
He's on
He's
the
promoted.
fence,
Yeah.
To straight up villain. Yeah,
Who
I
the
can
fuck
see
is
that.
Black Tarantula?
I mean, but again,
like we already have a Spider-Man. What is?
what? There's kinds of spiders, right?
I guess
You know.
Gog.
I mean, you listing all the names
Ooh,
of people is.
Sin Eater.
But right, but like for a casual fan, right? Because it still has to appeal to
The
casual
Living
fans.
Brain.
I feel like you got Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Venom, and then it's and Mysterio, I
And
guess.
Sandman.
He's fought Doctor
Yeah.
Doom. Spider Side. Some of these are so fucking stupid.
The Batman Arkham games basically survived on like the villain of the first one was the Joker, right? The villain of the second one was the Penguin. Is that right?
Yeah,
It was Penguin
You talking
plus
movies?
Two-Face. No. The games.
the Arkham games.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember. I always thought it. My understanding of the Arkham games is the pattern is the story always starts as a fake out, and then the Act 2 break is always it's Joker. It's always Joker.
It was
Like,
always
you think
centered
it's-
around the Joker.
You think
That's
it's
true.
Poison Ivy, and then Joker's blackmailing her. It's really the Joker.
And Spider-Man's never been content to be like, look, it's Doc Ock. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're
Even
gonna
though
go
it's-
with our best one.
I'm
Right.
embarrassed how long it took me to realize he's his arch nemesis because they both have 8 legs. Spiders and octopus.
You didn't even have to admit it.
Oh.
We would have never known.
Did you not? Did you just get that?
Yep.
Like that's that.
It's because they don't fight each other in nature enough. You don't see enough water spider and octopus fights.
All
You
right.
know,
I'm going on YouTube. and I'm looking up
we're making
Spiders
a genre.
fighting octopi.
spiders fight octopus. It's all clips from the
How
movie.
did you
all
feel
right.
about how New York was rendered?
That was my main complaint. Is that I feel like
Too bland?
it's a sandbox game where the sandbox was rushed, where they're like,
There's a little bland for you.
great, you designed one room, copy and paste it 580 times, and that's the Chrysler building. And I'm like, that's not really up to standards
See,
these
and
days.
well, what's interesting to me about this question for you is that you just played the best looking video game of all time, and
Yeah.
then you played the Spider-Man game.
Which is
And how
thoroughly
did that feel?
middling.
Well, so like the stuff that I loved about Red Dead, they do try to do a little bit of here, which is you got to go find your backpacks and
Right.
you got to go fix all these towers everywhere, and you got to go find them, and it was really very samey after a while.
Yeah.
And you're not, as you're doing it, you're not running into other people except people who are being mugged. And then like you get nothing out of that interaction. You save them, and then that's it. That's
Not even
like-
a feeling of joy.
Yeah,
It's
they're not like giving you a wedding ring and shit like that.
Sometimes they ask
They
to
are
take a
empty husks of
selfie.
people to me.
Yeah, they give me nothing.
I just
What's the
wanted-
point of being a superhero?
I wanted one hidden apartment in the entire game where
Sure.
there's a fat naked guy just looking out his apartment window.
Yeah, that's-
something.
You could have just put it there in your
There
mind.
was so much color in Red Dead where it was like stuff that probably
Yeah.
didn't matter to the rest of the game, but
Right.
it was there, and like you just encounter it along the way. You'd find somebody dead with a map of like this panoramic map of every city, and you're like, well, this is a weird thing to find up in the middle of the Alaskan tundra. And
It's true. Red Dead is very much like they want you to have a good experience from every angle, right?
Yeah.
Not from the one angle that you know you're going
Right.
to play.
Well, Rockstar is, if I'm misremembering and they didn't invent it, they're at least one of the granddaddies of sandbox games.
Yeah.
So I feel like they've had more time to figure out sandbox games are this. Okay, but that can get tedious, and we want to make sandbox games and make billions of dollars forever. How do we diversify this? And they're ahead of the curve on that.
they also have way more money and they abuse their employees.
Yes, but
Like, it's like-
yeah,
they do.
everybody's sleeping in cots there and eating tea
It's-
leaves.
it's
But of
true.
all the sandbox games in existence, the variety of things you do in Red Dead feel the least, Red Dead 2 specifically, feel the least like filler. You're like, this is a legitimate, separate enterprise that feels like its own game, and there's like 12 of them.
Well, and again, they make this game every 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, you know, if you had that amount of time to make a Spielberg film, let's
Right.
say,
You could
or an
do it.
Avengers, can you imagine how good it would be? You know? Great.
Yeah,
Warhorse, the 9-hour version.
that's
Yeah.
my opinion
Endgame.
on Spider-Man should be
Warhorse Endgame.
negated because I'm coming from the best game to this. And
No,
how
I
can
think
you
that's why
compare
it matters. I think that actually helps this opinion. Because you have, first, you're a new gamer, and then second, you have like two really important things to compare.
Yeah.
And like, well, what happens? Like, does New York look like shit to you? Does it look great?
No,
Like,
I saw New York didn't look like shit.
Yeah.
It felt very full in the amount of time that I played it because I also didn't have time to see overlap yet. But like when I was down on the ground level, the problem was I didn't have time to sit there and enjoy it because
Yeah.
I was Spider-Man.
Right.
And because it was a real problem if I was on street level.
That's true. That's the thing. That's how they sneak these shittier graphics by you, right? Is that you got to zip by everything so fast.
Like you got shit to do.
Whereas Red Dead, you're not going that fast ever.
And
Yeah.
again, I think it's a verticality problem because
Yep.
Spider-Man goes
goes up.
so in Gotham in the Arkham games, no building other than a building that's actually a full level that you're eventually going to infiltrate and traverse the insides of is taller than 5-6 stories.
They got some watchtowers. And stuff.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. But it's way easier when you think about it than Spider-Man needs his environment to be vertically like 80 stories
Yes.
most places.
That's true.
And that introduces the problem of making it the face of a building that's just a monotonous like series of cubes going up forever feel like the graphics are real and it's fun to look at and there's variety. And I just think it'll take them a while to figure that out. And so like I'm not knocking. There was a way better attention put to like when I was on the street. I was like, there's enough people. This all feels real. It was when I would run up a building forever
That you noticed how fake it
and it
felt.
would
Yeah.
feel like a Scooby-Doo cartoon where the background's repeating,
Yeah.
where I'm like, same lamp, same lamp, same lamp. Like every chair is at the same angle in
Yeah.
every room in this entire 80-story building. It's bizarre.
Maybe it's just to disincentivize you from doing it the shitty way.
Where you just
They're like,
spider
look, you
run
want
up
good
the building.
graphics? Spider-Man around, bro.
Yeah.
We set this up for you.
This is how you get it.
Don't run up that stupid
I'm
building.
waiting for game companies to literally be like, oh, I'm sorry, the graphics aren't that good. Did you want us to abuse our employees? And you have to be like, all right, okay, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
I'll
I said
tolerate the
anything."
jean jackets. It's fine. I'll tolerate the jean jackets.
But it's like, yeah,
That moment is coming, by the way.
I do want Red Dead Redemption 2 results.
Right. I want it to be perfectly made without it hurting anyone.
And for the price
and
to not go
cost
up.
less money.
Less.
Just all the things.
I'm fine with it costing
pay
a
the
bunch of money.
same.
Like if it's as cool as Red Dead, like I would have paid
Yeah.
anything for that.
I would have
game.
paid $100 for that game. Totally.
Red Dead 2 is worth $100
Definitely.
for the time you get out of it easily.
Same with one. I
Yeah.
think it's okay to begin contemplating raising that price for those games.
I think it'll be a transition process just because gaming is also jointed to like, well, it's for teens and tweens and they don't always have $100. But as more
don't
and
have
more
any
of us
bucks.
are like, no, I'm 38 and I want to
Right.
play your video games.
Right.
And I have $100 bills if I need to, like if I scrounge around,
Well, it's like owning a car. It's like when you're that age, you're not buying a brand new car. You get to have someone that 3 other people own before you, and that's
Sure.
fine.
You're like,
and
"Hit
you don't get it right
GameStop,
on the back.
pipsqueak."
You get it right when you're getting your car that has like roll up windows. The technology of that is way beyond that point when you're actually getting that car, and that's what should happen for those kids. Like they don't get to play Red Dead right away. They get it once everybody else is done with it.
Holy
I
shit,
agree.
you just dadded out
Yes.
so hard.
I think till you're 21, you should have to play the most recent generation of systems. You don't get the current generation of systems
they're
until
all getting-
next gen comes
They're
out.
getting Xbox 360 games right now.
Yeah, if
You
you're
get Red Dead
19,
1 if you're good.
You're playing
Yeah.
Xbox 360
Yeah.
and PlayStation 3 right
If you
now.
get AIDS, you get Bioshock, the original game. All
All right, Bradley, go
Yeah.
to your room.
That's fair.
Uh,
Except for there's going to be one shitty parent that gives them an Xbox 8 or whatever,
And then that,
Oh,
that kid
no.
ends up being the cool kid, and because life's not fair. Like it's cool. He's the one that everyone's like, "Oh fuck, he's played it. Oh man, he's telling us all about it."
He grew up to be ninja, and we're all like, fuck, we should have done that. I went to school and shit. All right, which takes us to our final checkpoint. Spider-Man watching his beloved Gwen Stacy's neck snap in the air. Never again will life be the same for this Spider-Man.
We just edited out another 12 minutes of Mike crying.
Bling bling, and I'm back. This is called Keep or Delete, where we basically are like, it's vague because theoretically, if had a generous spirit, you could keep everything because there's no limit to the number of things we're keeping.
Look, we're asking for people to be responsible gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Right? Don't send a game into space for the aliens if you don't think it's going to stand up in the test of time or if you don't think it's that good. If you
But-
think it's a great game that's like one of the greats of the genre, send it out there.
And it depends what you value. If you care about originality or just pure experience or story or gameplay
Yeah.
more. would you put this game on like a ledger of, no, this is one of the games in the history of video gaming you definitely got to check out, or let it go, and why?
Oh man, I am the wrong person to answer that question.
Because it's comparative.
Yeah,
Because I'm only going to put 2 games on
Well,
that.
I have a couple. I have like the
Red
first.
Dead on there.
I'm putting Prince of Persia: Two Thrones.
Wait, was that when it was still side-scrolling puzzle solving?
No.
Okay.
That
Do you
was
guys
those.
remember?
Oh, yeah,
of course.
geez.
Oh yeah,
I
it was too
love
hard.
it.
Honestly,
It was very hard.
that Prince of Persia was too hard for
And
me.
yet,
too.
just the atmosphere. Even as a kid, I never got more than like 8 minutes into it, but I was enchanted with the
Yeah.
idea of it.
I beat one of them because there've been
Really?
a bunch of and
Yeah.
you had to fight Jafar at the end.
Yeah.
It's
That's the
there's
first. Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's the first one on 64. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's Prince of Persia, I guess, is another game that no, I guess I played that before I played Halo even, but like
Sure.
Prince
Yeah.
of Persia was another game that actually feels like a predecessor to this game, where you look much cooler than you are. Like you're just pushing buttons and you're doing some really badass shit, and as long as you know the right combos, like
Yeah.
you look
You can
very,
really
very
do
cool.
it,
And
yeah.
you just get like all it is just hordes of enemies coming at you, and you're like, all right, now I gotta fuck these guys up for a while. But I don't know why this one struck me as it just felt the entire thing felt like a speed run. Like I was
Yeah.
so stressed out the whole time.
The anxiety of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, solving all these crimes. So would you keep it? What do you think?
Yeah, keep it, man.
Okay, great. I love it. I love that.
There's only 4 games. You may as well keep them.
Yeah.
I'm keeping all of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What about you?
I will delete it out of optimism because I think, first of all, if I was going to keep it just for the sake of what it is, we already have that. It's Arkham.
You think Arkham's better than this?
Overall, I think Arkham shows a lot more confidence and cohesion
Which one?
from
of
the
Arkhams?
developers as a full frame. Any one of them. I
Any of them
think,
are better. Okay.
Shows more cohesion and attention to detail, especially my main thing in the environment itself, in the way Gotham is rendered
I
versus
agree with
New
that.
York. New York still feels a little sterile, a little like it's just a quickly rendered series of boxes. I expect that to change. And if they don't keep making this game, I'll regret this decision forever because I do think the feeling of getting to actually Spider-Man through the air is pretty special.
Okay. Do you think that this game is a descendant of like the Double Dragons? Like the final fights of the world? You know, those brawlers from those days? I kind of do think it is. Like,
Sure.
remember Double Dragon?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like
Streets
it's-
of Rage.
Yeah, I feel like this is our version of that now, right? Where it's like it's basically execute the simple action, but then there's kind of other.
I feel like Devil May Cry is even closer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself like, if I kept Double Dragon, could I also keep this game? I don't know. I would not keep this game. I'm not sure I would keep any of that genre. I don't think any of
Also,
those
do you
games
care
are
about
great.
Spider-Man?
No, but this was the best argument for him mattering
Yeah.
as a cosmic property.
It's interesting that this is the game that you got into Spider-Man on, because this
Yeah.
was the game where I realized I'm not Peter Parker. Where like
Interesting.
the first movie came out, the very first Spider-Man movie came out, and I walked out of that jealous of like that world exists and being like, I want to live in that world. Like I want to be that so bad.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, that when you're at a seminal age and you discover Spider-Man and like why he does the things that he does, and he's not like other superheroes in that he's doing it because of guilt as opposed to like revenge or anything else. And like you feel a lot of guilt when you're a teenager.
Well, also,
Yeah.
his story's about teen angst, so
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know why every teen he's not their favorite because he's the only teen superhero.
Yeah,
Like, he's going
he's
through what
such
you're
a
going
good
through.
analog for you, and so like you really get attached to him. And in this one, I was playing it, and I was like, I just don't like. I don't feel that attached to Spider-Man.
Where's problems too diffuse for you?
Do you feel
Like, are they-
attached to any superheroes now that you're an adult?
Oh, I don't. I can't imagine.
Man, I'd have to think about it. I don't know.
Even, I mean, I used to really like Batman was more intriguing to me because I like the fantasy more than the relating to the character part of it.
Sure.
And Batman is cracked ruined Batman for me. It's you can't unthink about his wealth and his, you know what I mean, his impact on an environment and stuff.
Yeah.
And also how
Or
dumb
just
the
how
idea
silly
is.
it is. Yeah.
Just like why a bat? Why do this? Whereas Peter Parker, it does make sense for a teenager with weird powers that have to be used. You can't
And the
not
suit
do
is
something.
more
Right.
conservative than Batman's. It's less silly.
Yeah, and it's not as
Batman's-
about me. Like, look at me as much.
I think
you know, like-
Spider-Man's the only one I still care about, but I still care
Yeah.
about Spider-Man.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, but I wouldn't keep it because I
I
don't.
still want to see Homecoming with you.
Yeah, we'll watch Homecoming.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Soren and I are going to
Great.
go to home. You going to come?
Yeah,
All right, cool.
I have not seen that movie. I've
I'm
watched
sorry,
it.
Far From Home, the new one.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
I
watched
know
it.
what you meant.
Yeah,
Gyllenhaal.
I haven't watched okay.
And for my money, best J. Jonah Jameson. I really like this J. Jonah Jameson.
I like him as a pundit, as
Yeah.
a conservative radio pundit, but I did turn him off after about an hour.
Okay.
I was like, okay.
Then you didn't hear some of the Endgame stuff is funny where he has to, where he's like trying to justify like, all right, so he saved 800 people
Sure.
from getting blown up,
and that's funny.
but it's bad because
It's funny, but
yeah.
like, I believe it or not, I just have a visceral reaction to that now. Like, I'm just so tired of it.
you're like
it's-
real people are that illogical and it bothers you.
and it's just every fucking where some asshole who is wrong like has a podcast, says the guy on the podcast.
So long from three assholes who are wrong. Thanks for joining us, Soren. Is
Yeah,
there
my
anything you want to
pleasure.
plug?
Yeah. I've got a podcast called Quick Question with Soren and Dan.
Mm-hmm.
That's with Dan O'Brien and also Michael Sroor, who we used to work with.
Three wrong
Is
assholes.
he on the podcast?
Yeah, he sits in the background, kind of chuckles a little
He
bit
sits in
occasionally.
He sits in the back and goes,
Okay, I need to listen
if
to
we
it
needed,
more.
If we needed like a tiebreaker on something, then we'll address
Then he weighs
it.
in.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
That's a great role for him.
Sis Boomba. Yes,
And
sir.
That's pretty much all I got going on.
Sure.
No, your episode's out.
Yeah, my first episode of American Dad came out on July 29th. You could
Not that
probably
you contributed to, but that you were lead writer on.
I was
right?
the It's
Sole writer.
like my episode, although whatever that means.
Did it feel
Because-
cathartic for
Well,
you?
No, I mean this episode doesn't even because it was my first episode, and also it takes a while for like people to trust you in a
Yeah.
job like that with good reason. I shouldn't have been trusted, and so most of it's not even mine. I mean, there's so much rewriting that goes on. When it comes out, you're just like, oh, it's another episode of the show. Great, I contributed some to that, but my name is on it.
I heard you irreversibly killed off Roger and said it'll never
Yeah,
be
I said
taken
Roger's
back.
I said he's a bland character, and I killed him.
You want more room for the fish. Adam,
Oh no,
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I enjoyed it also. No plugs for me.
let's all thwip away.
Work complete.